So we're back with a brand new episode of Walkin' and Talkin' with Tim. So my guest today is a very old friend of mine, Greg Juliano, who not only works for the Department of Agriculture, but he his real passion, his main gig, how you all know him, is the Juliano Brothers, right? The band. We can't say let's get the band back together because you guys have never been apart. So
I think we'll be walking on stage with oxygen tanks on our noses.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. So to start out, my first question for Greg is simply this: you guys had to suffer through the pandemic, obviously, and for every band, as I understand it, because I used to play myself, and Greg and I used to play in my basement when we were really young, before we were allowed in the band.
Specify music, please.
Yeah, before we were allowed in the band, we were the young bucks in our families.
Right.
Anyway,
we were the ones on the outside looking in, wanting to be part of that
pretty much
music.
But he made it and I didn't, so it's all good. But so how did you guys get through the pandemic, and how are you guys doing now?
Well, I mean, people that have been following us, I'm not going to go through the whole story. People know what happened with us, and I'm not going to dive into that in too much detail. But to say that it was a struggle is putting it lightly. It was not an easy thing to go through, and we're still not directly going through it. But my brother Matt, as most of you know, was really, really sick. Gravely ill for a period of time, and we had to come up with Plan B and Plan C and what was going to happen, and I think staying relevant was one of my top concerns, as not just as a musician, but as you got to look at it as a business too. How do you keep your business relevant? What do you do? And that's when I had discussed with certain people, even before we got sick, about going through COVID, that we need to stay relevant one way or another. And that's when I came up with doing those Facebook Live events.
I did. I saw them. They were great.
Yeah, we could have flooded the market with a bunch of them, but we decided to do 1 hour once a week, and it kind of gave people something to look forward to.
Right.
And it really it wasn't my intention to do that, but I'm glad that it happened that way. We really did it because we wanted to stay relevant in ourselves. We didn't want to forget how to play, which we do on a normal basis anyway. So we didn't want to. We wanted to keep our chops up the best we could. And mind you, all this is before we got sick, and it was. I still get people that come up to me. How long later, people come up to me and still continue to thank me for doing that, and it meant so much to them, and that just pretty much puts another nail into the fact of why what we do, regardless of what it does to us as far as physically, driving home late at night, dealing with everything that's not on stage. Why we continue to do what we do. And it's
How many years have you been doing it?
I've been with the band since 1984.
It's a long time.
And my brothers have been doing it since 1973, which is even a really long time.
Well, and to speak to that,
and my parents have been doing it since the 60s.
So to speak to that, talk to us about, because originally the Juliano Brothers were family affair.
Yes.
And it goes way back to when your parents really they started the whole thing, right?
I know the band started before 1966, but my memory is a picture from the newspaper article of Jody, Matt, and the Trowers, which was my parents, in the mid '60s, playing at a tap room, that's what they were called back then in Philly. And ever since then, I always looked at that picture and thought my parents were rock stars, and
they were.
They really were. They were very popular back then, and they did tap rooms all the way up through the early '70s, and then they decided, we should start doing other stuff. Our kids are old enough. let's get them into music, which it didn't take much because they already loved it. It was already in their blood.
Who could ever forget your mom singing Ain't Misbehaving?
Right. And they retired pretty much the year I started with the band. So they retired from playing professionally in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my dad completely walked away from it. Never saw a stage again, except once a year he might sing a song, but never played keyboards again after. My mom, she still liked it, and she still came up and sang even when she was sick. Before she passed away, she did it as long as she could because she loved singing.
She was so much fun.
People will talk about her forever.
Absolutely.
She definitely left her mark, and my parents left a legacy too, and
look at you now.
And look at us now. It's a whole thing.
It's a huge thing. You guys are playing. You just said we talked about how far your reach. So you're the Delaware Valley. You said you're in Connecticut. You guys are going to Key West and playing in Florida. How many times a year? Once, twice a year?
Well, we have three shows coming up right now in Key West. Starting in a couple weeks, we're going to be there the week before Thanksgiving. We're down there again.
How crazy is that?
For New Year's, which is, if you've never been to Key West for New Year's, that is something you got to put on your bucket list. That is a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I'm going to go back again in February because February, I think, is when the most people come from up here to come see us down there. We usually bring a couple hundred people down with us, and they love it because it's a perfect time. And you're right in between seasons, pretty much. You're knee deep in winter, and you're ready.
Well,
to
you
get
have
some
such a huge following. That actually, I should say, you have such a loyal following.
Yeah.
That you
very blessed
get
that way.
Hundreds of people to take that trip to Key West with you guys just to hang out and watch you guys play. How crazy is that? How fun is that?
It's awesome.
What's that feel like when you're down there? You're good.
I look like a bald eagle.
It may be.
It is a bald eagle.
It is a bald eagle.
Look at that.
Amazing.
How about that? See that?
God
That's
bless
a sign.
America.
That's a sign, Tim.
It's a sign. That's a sign.
That's a sign that I'm about to get run over by a car.
By a Nissan. So listen. So what's it like to play in Key West when you have like all these people and all these followers that come down with you? What's that like?
Playing on the stage that we play on at Sloppy Joe's is amazing because it's not just a local destination. It's not just a regional destination. It's a world destination. People from all over the world know Sloppy Joe's.
Oh, yeah.
And you never know who's going to walk in those doors. And you never know who you're entertaining with a camera in front of you all night that pretty much televises
that's
you
rock
from
and roll
everywhere.
down there. I've seen stars just pop
great.
in and just play.
Yep, we've had some really cool people sit in with us. Zach Brown actually came out and hung out. And
that's crazy.
a lot of other people that are in town. It's so much fun. And from doing it for so many years, we've been going down there since the early 2000s. We have a family down there too.
It's amazing.
The Sloppy Joe's folks, they're literally like family to us. And they treat us like family, and we consider them part of our family. They're just great people. We also work at the Green Parrot down there too, which is like one of the coolest dive bars on the planet. You walk in there, you're like, oh my God, this place is it gonna fall down? But it's awesome. It's an amazing place, and real music lovers, that's where you go to listen to music when you're in town there.
Yeah, giddy up, man. Giddy up.
Sloppy Joe's is downtown where you're...
The important thing to note about Key West is if you're going to go to Key West and see these guys and see them play, or go to Key West at all for any kind of trip.
Start saving for it now.
Not just that, but plan your recovery time for when you get home.
Yes.
Because Key West is one big fat party, and it's just from the minute you get there till the minute you get on the plane and leave and to come home.
Yeah, it's pretty magical.
It's pretty magical. So if people want to get a hold of you or Juliano Brothers, how do they do it?
Well, the best way to get a hold of us right now is through Facebook. We're a little behind the draw on our webpage, and we're working on that. But right now, if you like our Facebook page, it's the Juliano Brothers Band. You just give us a thumbs up, and you can like us on there. And it has our contact information on how to book us. I don't always get back to folks right away because I have a lot of plates in the air, but I do notice them, and I do try to get back as soon as I can to folks. But you're booking directly with us, so I try to get back to you as soon as I can.
So that's how to get a hold of Greg. That's how to get a hold of the Juliano Brothers. I want to thank Greg for being on today. My good old friend, my rock and roll buddy. You all know him and love him. Thanks for watching. keep on moving, and I'll see you next time on Walking. Oh, whoa.
And keep tuning into these things because I love these things, and I love Tim, and Tim and I go back a long ways, like he said, and it was a pleasure being considered to do the walk with you, Tim. I love it.
No, I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks so much. Well, listen, stay tuned. Keep watching, keep walking, and we'll see you next time on Walking and Talking with Tim.
Peace.
Peace.